In the late 90s, Snoop Dogg was a marked man. With Tupac gone, Dr. Dre out, and Suge Knight locked up, Death Row Records had turned from a powerhouse into a war zone. And right in the middle of it all was Snoop. Behind bars, Suge was still calling shots. And word on the street, he wasn't happy. Snoop had talked peace with Bad Boy. That alone could get a man smoked. Mac 10 had offered Snoop $1 million to drop a diss album called Fuck Death Row. Snoop was ready to take it, but just before he did, a Southern mogul stepped in. Master P didn't just sign Snoop, he walked into the lion's den and struck a deal that changed everything. This is the story of how Master P went face to face with Suge Knight and walked out with Snoop Dogg. The Death Row collapse. After Tupac's murder in September 1996, everything at Death Row started falling apart. Suge Knight was hit with a prison sentence after violating parole, and just like that, the label lost its boss. But the streets kept moving. And Snoop Dogg, he was still signed, still visible, and still in danger. Snoop had started speaking publicly about peace, calling for unity between East and West. But to some inside the Death Row circle, that sounded like betrayal, especially to Suge, who was known for making moves from behind bars. According to Snoop, things got serious fast. There were whispers that Suge had put a green light on him. A quiet message passed through the streets that Snoop wasn't safe. Meanwhile, Snoop was dealing with the fallout. He was finishing up The Dogfather, but the energy wasn't the same. Dre had already dipped, Tupac was gone, and Death Row felt more like a prison than a label. That's when the offer came. Mac 10 approached Snoop with a tempting idea. $1 million to put out a project called Epic Death Row. It would have been the boldest middle finger in hip-hop history. The album was already being discussed, even partially recorded, but something didn't sit right with Snoop. He knew putting that out could light a fuse he wouldn't survive. And the deeper he got into those sessions, the clearer it became. He needed a way out. That's when he crossed paths with someone unexpected. A man who didn't play by West Coast rules and who didn't fear Suge Knight. A man from the South who moved with quiet power and deep pockets. Master P. And what happened next didn't just save Snoop's life. It rewrote the rules of loyalty, business, and survival in the rap game. The $1 million mistake. Snoop was standing at a crossroads. On one side, a $1 million deal with Mac 10 to publicly torch Death Row. On the other, the unknown. No label, no protection, no clear future, and Suge still watching from the shadows. He was leaning toward the diss. The money was real. The anger was real. And nobody had ever dared take a shot at Suge like that, especially not someone from his own camp. But then, a chance studio run-in changed everything. Master P was in town. No Limit was on fire. Mystical, Silk, C Murder, all booming. P and his crew had a different energy. They weren't caught up in West Coast drama. They were building an empire out of New Orleans, one record at a time. Snoop told Master P what he was working on. The Fact Death Row project, the plan, the payout. P stopped him cold. He said straight up, "You do that, you're dead. No cameras, no headlines, just gone." Because Death Row wasn't just a label, it was war. And Suge's reach didn't stop at the prison gates. That moment flipped everything. Instead of signing papers with Mac 10, Snoop started having real conversations with Master P. No contracts, no threats, just questions. Could he get out of Death Row? Would Suge let go? Could someone actually make that deal happen from inside a prison cell? Master P said he could. He wasn't bluffing. He told Snoop, "Let me talk to Suge. Not through lawyers, not through middlemen, but directly in prison." It sounded crazy, impossible. But Master P wasn't like the others. He didn't owe Suge anything, and he wasn't scared. That conversation, that decision not to drop that album, might be the moment Snoop saved his own life. And now, Master P was walking into one of the most dangerous negotiations in rap history, the prison deal. Master P didn't wait. He told Snoop to sit tight and then made a move nobody saw coming. He went to visit Suge Knight in prison, not through back channels, not on the phone, in person. At the time, Suge was locked up at California Men's Colony in San Luis Obispo. It was 1998. Death Row was crumbling, suits were piling up, and Suge's empire was slipping through his fingers. Then Master P walked in. No bluff, no backpedaling. Master P sat down across from Suge and made an offer. He wanted to buy out Snoop's contract. Rumors later said the number was $2 million. P never confirmed it exactly, but he made it clear, whatever it took, he had the cash. Suge didn't smile, but he listened. For years, Death Row had held Snoop like a trophy. The Chronic, Doggy Style, all those platinum records, Suge's leverage. But now, with Tupac gone and Dre long departed, Snoop was the last real name on the board. Letting him go would be an admission of defeat. But holding him? That was starting to look like a liability, so Suge made a choice. He agreed. No screaming, no threats, just paperwork. According to Master P, the deal was clean. Suge would step back, Snoop would walk, and No Limit would become his new home. P didn't just get the music, he got everything. The contracts, the rights, the artist. The next day, Snoop got a call. It was done. Suge had signed off. Master P didn't just save Snoop's life, he bought his freedom from behind prison walls. And when Snoop showed up at No Limit Studio in Baton Rouge, he wasn't just an artist. He was reborn. Snoop's new life at No Limit. When Snoop landed in Baton Rouge, he wasn't greeted like a guest, he was treated like family. Master P didn't waste time. He put Snoop in a house, gave him 2 brand new Suburbans, and made sure everything was in Snoop's own name. For the first time in years, Snoop had stability. No middlemen, no fear, no one breathing down his neck. Just music, freedom, and a label that actually backed him. No Limit operated differently. They moved like a team. No guns in the studio, no drama, just straight hustle. Snoop later said the difference was night and day. On Death Row, he was making hits in chaos. On No Limit, he was making moves with a plan. The first release under the new deal, "Da Game is to be sold, not to be told." It wasn't just an album, it was a statement. Snoop was back, but this time under Southern leadership, and the fans showed up. The record went platinum in weeks. Then came No Limit Top Dog, another chart topper, another win. But it wasn't just about sales, it was about ownership. At Death Row, Suge kept everything. The publishing, the masters, even the cars. At No Limit, Snoop finally got a cut that made sense. Master P's label was famous for offering an 80-20 profit split, and P stuck to it. For the first time, Snoop wasn't just making music, he was building wealth. The shift was bigger than money, it was personal. Snoop said it loud, "Master P saved my life." He'd gone from fearing for his safety to being the face of a whole new empire. And while the world watched Snoop thrive, Suge was still watching from a cell. The game had flipped, and No Limit was running the board. Suge denies it all. Just when the story seemed settled, Snoop freed, Master P praised. Suge came back with his version, and he wasn't holding back. In a teaser for his prison podcast, Suge addressed the rumors head on. The stories about Master P buying Snoop's contract, all cap. According to Suge, Master P never came to visit him. Not once. Suge claimed the whole narrative was twisted. He said there was no $2 million deal. No secret handshake behind bars. Just business. Simple paperwork. According to him, Snoop's exit came through a corporate arrangement with Priority Records, not some dramatic sit-down with Master P. In Suge's words, "I did a deal with Brian Turner, loaned Snoop services to Priority, gave him the right to go to No Limit that version, less emotional, more calculated. Suge didn't let Snoop go. He licensed him out, kept the masters, held on to leverage, moved the pieces like a CEO, not a friend. And there's some truth to that. Industry insiders confirmed that Priority Records helped facilitate Snoop's transition. That deal was reportedly worth up to $4 million, even more than Master P's alleged offer, which adds weight to Suge's version, that it was paperwork, not pressure, that moved Snoop off Death Row. But here's the twist. Both stories could be true, just from different angles. Maybe Master P never walked into the prison. Maybe he worked through intermediaries. Maybe Suge did the deal through Priority, but only after realizing he couldn't keep Snoop in a cage forever. Or maybe Suge's just protecting the image. Either way, the moment Snoop left Death Row, the balance shifted. And Suge, he's still trying to control the story from behind bars. But there's one thing he can't deny. Snoop never looked back. 2 versions. One legend. Master P says he walked into prison and negotiated Snoop's freedom with straight cash and confidence. Suge says it was just a corporate arrangement through Priority Records. And stuck between the two, Snoop, the artist whose life and legacy were caught in the middle. The wild part is, Both versions built their own legend. Master P's story paints him as the street-smart hero, a southern mogul who had the guts to face Suge and the heart to protect Snoop. It's dramatic, cinematic, and fits the myth of No Limit perfectly. And when Snoop tells it, he echoes that energy. From the house to the Suburbans to the full ownership of his name, Master P gave him everything Suge never would. But then you've got Suge's version. Calm, legal, strategic. In his mind, Snoop was never taken. He was loaned. Suge kept the rights, got the payout, and let the label reap whatever came from Snoop's next few albums. He wasn't defeated, he was just playing a long game, and that's the divide. One side says Snoop was freed by loyalty, the other says he was shuffled through contracts. But ask Snoop who he credits, and he doesn't hesitate. It's P. So what's the truth? Maybe it doesn't matter. Maybe what matters is what came after. The freedom, the records, the revival. Because while Suge tried to control the narrative, Master P helped Snoop take control of his life. And no matter how it happened, one thing is crystal clear. Snoop got out, and he never forgot who made it happen. No Limit runs the game. Once Snoop settled at No Limit, everything changed. The vibe, the structure, even the sound. He was no longer surrounded by chaos and paranoia. Master P ran his label like a business. Contracts tight, money right, and loyalty respected. And that was exactly what Snoop needed. His first No Limit album, Da Game Is To Be Sold Not To Be Told, dropped in August 1998. It was different. No Dre, no G-Funk, just gritty southern beats and a whole new aesthetic. But fans showed up. The album went platinum fast, and Snoop was back in the headlines. Not for beef or controversy, but for numbers. Then came No Limit Top Dog. Released in May 1999, it was even bigger. This time, Snoop mixed his West Coast roots with No Limit muscle. The result? A #1 debut on the Billboard 200 and over 1.5 million units sold. Suge could only watch from a distance. No Limit didn't just give Snoop albums. They gave him peace. They gave him business advice. They gave him ownership. For the first time, Snoop had cars and homes in his name. Not leased through a label, not borrowed with strings. His money was real. His brand was protected. Meanwhile, Death Row scrambled to fill the gap. They tried launching new artists. One of them, YGD Tha Top Dog, was even branded as a Snoop replacement, but it didn't stick. Fans weren't buying it. Without Snoop, the label had no voice, and without Suge on the streets, it had no teeth. Snoop, once trapped under Death Row's weight, was now flying under No Limit's wings. And Master P, he didn't just get a superstar, he made a statement. No one, not even Suge Knight, was untouchable. The legend versus the paperwork. Even years later, the story of how Snoop left Death Row still splits opinions. Some believe Master P rolled into that prison, made Suge an offer he couldn't refuse, and walked out with the biggest artist on the West Coast. Others say it was just paperwork, cold, legal, simple, but the legend, that lives louder. Master P never let go of the story. He's told it the same way in every interview, that he saw Snoop was in danger, acted fast, and put up the money to get him free. That he didn't ask for anything up front, just loyalty, and that loyalty paid off. Suge, on the other hand, sees it differently. In his 2023 podcast, he said the real deal came through Priority Records, not Master P's pocket. That there was no in-person visit, no drama, just a licensing agreement that let Snoop record elsewhere for a while. But even if Suge's right, even if it was all handled through lawyers and label heads, what sticks in people's minds is the image, Master P walking into a prison, writing a check and taking Snoop home. Because that's what Snoop felt, that's what he remembers. Not the paperwork, not the fine print, the loyalty. And that version, it stuck. It became one of the most iconic untold stories in hip-hop. Not because of the contract, but because of the courage. Because when nobody else was willing to stand up to Suge, Master P did. And Snoop, he didn't just get a new deal, he got his life back. Full circle. Decades later, Snoop Dogg owns the very label that once held him hostage. In 2022, he officially acquired Death Row Records, turning the same empire that nearly broke him into one he now controls. That move was more than business, it was closure. Back in the 90s, he feared for his life under Suge Knight. He was surrounded by lawsuits, violence, and distrust. Now he's calling the shots, and he's done it without erasing the past. That respect never faded. No matter how far Snoop climbed, he never stopped crediting Master P. In every interview, every podcast, he reminds the world who showed up when it mattered most. And Suge, still behind bars, still telling his side. His recent podcast appearances have been filled with denial, revision, and the occasional swipe at Master P. But the energy is different now. The fear is gone. The control is gone. Snoop, once silenced under death row, now owns the catalog, the rights, the masters, and he's using them his way. That full circle moment is rare in hip-hop. Most stories don't end with the artist on top. Most don't get to rewrite history, but Snoop did. And what started it all wasn't a lawyer or a label exec. It was Master P, a businessman from New Orleans who saw the fire in Snoop's eyes and moved fast enough to keep it burning. No matter whose version of the story you believe, one truth stands above the rest. Snoop got out. He survived the most dangerous label in rap history, and today he runs it. Who really won? So who really walked away with the win? Suge Knight had the power. He built the label. He signed the legends. But by the late 90s, that power slipped through his fingers. He lost Tupac. He lost Dre. And when he lost Snoop, Death Row never recovered. Master P made a move that most wouldn't dare. He saw opportunity where others saw danger. He stepped in, made a call, and changed the course of Snoop's life and hip-hop history. And he did it without a threat, without a headline, and without ever raising his voice. The paperwork, the rumors, the podcast denials, none of that erases what came next. Snoop dropped platinum albums. He found peace. He learned business, and he outlived the chaos. Today, Snoop stands as a mogul, a boss, a survivor. And the man who taught him how to move like that wasn't Suge, it was Master P. Whether he walked into that prison or not, whether 2 million changed hands or just a signature, the impact is undeniable. So now it's your turn. Who do you believe? Did Master P really face down Suge and pull off the boldest deal in rap? Or was it just business as usual behind closed doors? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Hit that like button if you learned something new. And make sure to subscribe, because the next story goes even deeper. This is hip-hop history, and we're just getting started.